Talk Shoes. Recorded live.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, across the nation or around the world. Once again, you are listening to the VMware Community's Roundtable Podcast. This is podcast number 581. My name is Eric Nilsson. With me today, I have Corey Romero as my co-host. Today's Wednesday, November 17th, 2021. Corey, I can't believe it's already November 17th. The year is almost done. How are you doing out there in Utah?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I can't believe it either. I know it seemed like just a couple months ago, which wasn't the case, but we were talking about, 2020 is going to be over with. Can't wait for 2021. I can't believe it's the same time of year, and it's literally around the corner.
On the show today, we're going to be talking to Brock Peterson. Brock is back again to talk to us about vRealize operations, application monitoring. So he has a blog article out on brockpeterson.com. I'm excited to get to that. So, but before we get to Brock, let's just do a little bit of the news. Corey, I know you got a little vExpert news. We'll talk about VMworld 2022 in person. So what's happening with vExperts?
Yeah, so we have our vExpert applications opening December 6th, and they're going to run through to January 14th, and we're going to announce the vExpert program for 2022 on February 18th. And we've got a couple things, exciting news coming for the vExpert website. I think the most exciting thing is we're going to have a live application launching soon. Currently, we're working on an integration with my VMware, and so we're going to have some integrations for product downloads, licensing, and a bunch of really, really cool other things. That's already in our dev instance, so once we launch that, we'll email the vExperts, and then after that, we're going to get working on and launch the live application. So hopefully we'll have that before January 1st, or even towards the end of the application's closing. With that, that's all I've got for vExpert news.
So Corey, I just gotta talk to you a little bit about that, which is I'm excited about having the live application stuff going on because I think we've talked about that for now 3 years, right? Like where we wanted to have that feature and it takes a while. And I have to smile. Most people know this that are listening to this podcast, but it's like when people come to me going, oh, we have this great idea. We want to build this with the community, want to build it with the experts. I kind of want to tell them that if you have an idea, we might get that idea implemented and done in like several years, right? By the time you get resources from IT, by the time you get people to build it, by the time you prioritize other things that come up as fire drills and emergencies. And it's like the reality of getting a new big feature in a program done is like you can have the idea. Ideas are super cheap, and it takes like multiple years of dedication, keeping it going, keeping the vision going to make that happen, right? So this is par for the course what I see it takes to get real features implemented. So good job to you guys for staying and getting it out, because that'll be super cool for people to come in and be able to edit their applications throughout the year.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good job. All right, with that, VMworld, just to reiterate that, VMworld's going to be live in US and Europe next year. So you can go get the dates and times on vmworld.com. They have a save the date in the info area, and be thinking about where you might want to book a hotel, because we're going to all be there. I'm excited about that. I know the VMworld team is ramped up and looking at working with us closer. I think we're going to do a hybrid environment again. We're going to be doing US and Europe. So I'm excited about that as well. So, and we're going to doing virtual as opposed to on-prem. So both of those are going to be happening. Excited about that. And with that, we'll just move to the topic of the day, because I'm excited to talk to Brock again. Brock, I think you were on sometime early in the beginning of the year, March or April, talking about vRealize operations and cost analysis, right? And ROI, right, for the tool. And I got to say, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You can do since you've been on already, a lot of people might have heard of you. How did you get here, and what do you work on at VMware?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Eric. I think it was back this summer sometime when you and I were on talking about costing. So I came here to VMware as a part of the Blue Medora acquisition. So VMware acquired the True Visibility Group within Blue Medora about 1.5 years ago. So I came over and am now a multi-cloud management solution architect. I know that's a mouthful, basically an SE representing and supporting the vRealize suite of tools. So vRealize Operations, vRealize Automation, vRealize Log Insight, Lifecycle Manager, Cloud Health, Salt Stack, et cetera, et cetera. So we talked a little bit about costing applications, VMs, hosts, et cetera, in the last meeting, and excited to be back this time talking about applications. So there's a lot that vRealize Operations can do around applications. Originally designed as kind of a vSphere platform, we've definitely ventured out into the app realm a little bit. But before VMware, I was at Blue Medora for 3 years, and before that, quite a few years at Big Blue.
Nice. Yep. I gotta do a shout out to your blog article. Your blog gets you back here because we watch for trending blog articles. We have a blogs.vmware.com. We have a lot of affiliate bloggers. I think 1,000 plus bloggers out at blogs.vmware.com. And your blog, we watch trending blogs, and we watch dynamic signal advocacy.vmware.com. If you want to join advocacy, you can reach out to Corey if you're listening to this. And what that allows you to do is to retweet everybody's content that's in there. And we watch how much retweets are happening through advocacy, through the blogs program, and you keep trending. So you're back.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
I gotta say that if you look at some of the VMworld sessions we've been promoting, the VMworld sessions have been for vRealize has also been trending. So I think vRealize is actually getting a lot of traction in the community and with our customers now. Versus, it's kind of one of been slow build over time. 10 years ago, nobody was shelfware, but then as you see it slowly go to where now it's actually people use it and people want to consume content.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're deploying vSphere, you're running vRealize Operations and vRealize Log Insight, automation, et cetera. Generally, we'll see it in kind of phases. Phase 1 being operations and Log Insight, phase 2 being automation, which makes sense, of course. But when I came on board and was introduced to the vExpert program, which is great, by the way, the program that Corey runs, super important community to VMware and the vRealize infrastructure in general. When I came on board, maybe half of my customers were running vRealize Operations, and now every single customer is running it, right? If you're running vSphere, you're not sitting in vCenter all day looking at problems and analyses and trending. You're looking in vRealize Operations and using all of the goodness that comes with ops to kind of troubleshoot, cost, capacity plan, alerting, all sorts of functions that VRops can do. And today application monitoring is just one of those. So I feel like we've come a long way, and every vSphere customer at this point is running the platform.
Right. All right. And with that, we'll talk a little bit about your blog, which is application monitoring. And the first thing I got to say is I got to love dark mode and your screenshots with dark mode. It makes me want to go, spend time with vRealize Ops and just the beautifulness of that GUI. And your blog article obviously takes screenshots there. So application monitoring, I thought we'd start with so where is the state of application monitoring? I come from Sun Microsystems back in the day when we tried to do N1, which was this kind of cloud-based solution, but it was based on applications. There wasn't a VM concept. It was trying to break down applications and manage all the applications that sat on top of Solaris, which actually VMware had a better solution, which is they containerized everything in a VM, and you didn't really care about the applications. You were basically managing at the VM level. But now I look, 10, 15 years later, and, the application level now is important. So where has that been? How long have we been playing in this space? How did we get here?
Yeah, over the last few years, we've kind of ventured out a little bit. And back in the day, it was explained to me like this, and it resonated really well. So, vRops really is focused on vSphere, VMs, ESXi hosts, and it kind of dabbles up into applications, right? And then say Tanzu Observability or Wavefront is focused on application and instrumented solutions and dabbles down into vSphere, right? So we've come a long way from just dabbling in applications to actually consuming application data, performance metrics, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a few different ways that ops can get it, right? So there's 4 different management packs that allow us to consume other, say, APM type solutions. But in terms of vRops itself, there's a lot that we can do around custom grouping of, say, VMs or ESXi hosts to present applications back to the user. We can also discover applications via Verni. So Verni is vRealize Network Insight. It has flow-based application discovery, manual application discovery, and we can pull all of that data into vRealize operations, present it back via dashboards, content reports, create alerts for it, et cetera. So vRealize operations has come a long way in terms of application monitoring. It still was designed to monitor vSphere, ESXi, et cetera, but we go above, like I just said, into apps, and then down below with VRTVS, which is the True Visibility Suite, into compute, network, and storage as well. So, it's not an APM. vRealize Operations is an operations management tool. It's not an instrumented solution like some of the others, but we do have visibility into applications. And beyond the few that I just mentioned, we also can expose applications via Telegraph. So Telegraph would be the follow-on to Endpoint Operations or Hyperic. So those are agent-based solutions, sit out on VMs, collect data from things like IIS or Nginx or SQL, what have you. So an agent-based solution, which some folks love, some don't, they can be really powerful, but you do have to manage an agent in that case. And then bring all of that data back, present the application, and then the VM that it's sitting on. So the last couple years, operations has come a long way in terms of applications. And then of course, VRTVS also presents some application data back to operations. So all the databases that I just mentioned, and then some things like SAP, SAP HANA, ServiceNow, et cetera. So much more than just an operations management platform in this case.
Yeah, I just like you just ripped through every single bullet point I have in my notes here. It's like boom, 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 right? Like so, backing up a little bit. The agent model, Telegraph agent, and then Salt Minion. I'm just reading things out of your blog article, to drill down a little bit. I mean, for me, application monitoring, the devil was always in the details, right? And the devils were the agents themselves and the compatibility across new apps that come along. What's the maturity of that space, and how do we do in that? And then I guess I'll follow up with what have customers experienced, right? And, you're in the field a little bit. What are you experiencing there?
Yeah, so I have a little bit of both, right? So I have some customers that will use VRTVS for application monitoring, things like SAP or HANA or some of the database platforms. And that's agentless based technology that goes out to generally APIs, RESTful APIs, JDBC type connections to pull all that data back. I have other clients who either may not be licensed for it or want a little bit more detail, and they're willing to manage agents. And in this case, it's Telegraph, which is an open source based agent from Influx Data, I believe. And there's all sorts of other open source agents as well, but we're talking about Telegraph in this case. We can monitor 24, 25 different apps out of the box. The Salt Minion, which is another agent-based technology called SaltStack, which is a part of VRA at this point, another acquisition by VMware. But with agents comes power, right? So you can get a little bit more granular. You can monitor things like services or processes, in-guest OS type metrics, right? So I think being that you have a payload on a VM, you can pull in quite a few more metrics. That said, Telegraph has come a long way in terms of being able to manage it via the UI, provide easy upgrades, easy deployments, bring everything in through a cloud proxy and manage it really easily. That wasn't always the case, maybe with Hyperic, EPOps, and now Telegraph. It's really rich, it's robust, fairly straightforward. I have a dozen or so running in my lab. I have no issues. Any customers that I have that are running Telegraph, very few issues in terms of agent management, which is almost always the first question that I'll get. Pluses and minuses, I think, with both, but we do have two options, and whatever fits your shop best is the one we'll deploy.
That makes sense. In the past, IT mainly dealt with servers, storage, networking, and didn't climb up into that app space. And then you have the application people that are, managing the apps. Is that coming down? And I look at just-in-time delivery and what, now engineers are actually doing 24/7 support in their rotation per year. I've talked about this in the past, where it's I'm seeing engineers coming down doing operational support in the data center to manage their apps that they support in just-in-time delivery. How is this coming down, and how are we going up?
Yeah, it's sort of the DevOps, DevSecOps, FinOps movement, right? Everyone's kind of doing a little bit of all of it, right? So developers are doing a bit of operations, be it shadow ops or otherwise, and operators are kind of moving up the stack and doing a little bit of development. That said, folks want visibility into not just the application, right? So you can go into an app tool, APM tool like TO or AppD or data, any of these others, and see what's going on in terms of transaction, synthetic transaction, instrumented solution. But I also need to see what's going on down below that, right? So vRops gives us that from the bottom up. So you don't have just developers looking at application tools or kind of code tracing tools. They're actually looking at, IO tracing, performance type metrics from a VM and vSphere perspective beyond just the application layer. So I think vRops previously, just gave us kind of vSphere type information, and now it's giving us all of it. So those app developers are actually using the ops UI as opposed to an APM UI. Still using APM UIs, right, to track transactions and whatnot, but vRops is moving into that space a little bit.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I experienced an outage on my my helium coin miner that I have now sitting on in my attic that goes up to an antenna that creates Wi-Fi. I've talked about this a little bit in my mining, and it had an outage. And the interesting thing about that outage is that the application was giving me as a user stats on the outage, what was happening, where the outage was. They were telling me everything they were doing on the back end. And I look at just-in-time apps now, or just-in-time delivery of software, like you actually have to bubble that outage information all the way up out to the customer, because the customer wants to actually know what's happening at the app level.
Yeah, I mean, is it your web server? Is it your database server? Is it middleware? Like, where is that problem? And ops and some of the management packs that we have available out on the marketplace give us visibility into each of those layers. So when you're troubleshooting a problem, just kind of dig your way down, and use some of the troubleshooting workbench, for example, to troubleshoot an application, maybe a user issue up top, down into your vSphere infrastructure, maybe down into your compute network and storage below it. And if you're using other APM tools, we can pull that data in to vRealize operations as well. So, we have integrations for things like Dynatrace, AppD, New Relic, Datadog. So we're not just being, VMware centric here. If we have other APM tools, let's use them and find issues.
So we take a look at this space now, and now I bring in Kubernetes into this, right? I mean, I understand from a Nginx and the traditional applications, client server, and in running these, when you start bringing in Kubernetes into this, where you have pods and different microservices in different places, how well does vRealize start to tackle this, and how do we do it with Tanzu? What does that story look like?
Yeah, so we have a very rich, nice, robust management pack for Kubernetes. I believe a new updated one just GA'd last week, 1.6-ish, I think. So, bringing in metrics from Prometheus, from pods into operations. So we have visibility not only to your container infrastructure, but your VMs as well. And then Tanzu observability, we're building integrations from ops into TO and back, right? So we're not there currently. We have integrations with vRealize, Network Insight, vRealize Automation, VRA, vRealize Orchestration, VRO, and Verni. So Tanzu observability is kind of our next integration that we're working on. That'll present kind of, the bridge between the gap, as it were, between vRops and TO at this point. And when I say TO, I mean Tanzu observability, which is a beautiful UI. If you like the dark UI in ops, I think you'll really like what you see in TO. So there's a lot we can do in the container arena, and the integration between the two platforms is being worked on. We actually just spoke about it yesterday internally.
I have a people learning question as well here, right? Because it's becoming clear as I watch the numbers on how many people are educating themselves on vRealize content. Like, I look at IT admins and I say, okay, you manage compute. Then we got networking, and we managed compute and networking, and there was this big argument between the network admins never coming over, and we had this battle, and eventually the battle went away because it became clear that SDS, software defined everything, was the solution, and you were going to have to be a software defined everything administrator. Storage came in, same kind of thing. Now I look at application administrators, right? Or, and then, software defined everything. How are those, am I going to need to, I guess the question was, vRealize, it's almost a whole career now category where I could spend the rest of my career just learning all the components that are available to manage your infrastructure through vRealize. Are you seeing those kind of roles start to show up in the enterprise?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the larger the enterprise, the more apt you are to see those, of course, whereas in a smaller shop, you might have someone doing, vSphere, ESXi, and doing VROPS and Verni and some of the other things. But the larger the shop, the more I've seen shops that have dedicated teams to vRealize tools, right? So a team running ops, a team running Verni, a team running automation, right? Because they're different sort of skill sets. For VRA, you have kind of a DevOps background, right? Where you might have a development history, you're writing some YAML, you're doing infrastructure as code. Whereas in operations, you have a much more of kind of a UI background, a monitoring AI ML history where you're trying to present metrics, publish dashboards that help application developers or application owners, proactively find problems or detect issues. But yes, to answer your question, I have seen those, and that's why, the vExpert program of Corey's and why we have certs around things like VROPS, VRLI, VRA, because folks are doing just that. Right? They're not doing necessarily development. They're not doing, cloud infrastructure architecture. They're doing vRealize operations, vRealize automation, et cetera. So the platform has become really, really strong and very robust in the sense that it's not just, vCenter, for example, right? Where you might find a few metrics, look at a threshold, et cetera. Well, ops can do costing, it can do capacity, it can do application monitoring, it can do alerting. You can use it as kind of your alerting hub to send things off to ServiceNow or Slack or email, whoever you want, right? So the platform is so rich, it's so robust. In 8.6, for example, the UI has changed a little bit, and we recently introduced what we call Automation Central, which is a job scheduler, sort of a lightweight automation platform within operations. So now we have customers not only doing application monitoring, but also doing things like powering off idle VMs, reclaiming storage by deleting old snapshots. I have customers, when 8.4 came out, they enabled automation of snapshot deletion, and they bought back terabytes and terabytes of data. Just massive old snapshots sitting out there doing nothing. A nice feature enhancement in 8.4 now allows them to do that. So the platform is so rich that careers are definitely being built on it.
Yeah, I'm just overlooking at your blog now, and we'll do a shout out. I put it in the chat on the YouTube channel and the VMware video channel as well. It's brockpeterson.com. And I got to look at your, we're talking about the fact that this is vRealize is becoming almost an industry and a career, right? And I look at your blog, I don't know how many blog articles you got here, but it looks like there's like 25, 30, high quality blogs on just all of these topics for vRealize, right? Where you can actually spend a lifetime just reading your blog, right? Like to learn about this stuff. So is this? I just think this is maybe becoming an ecosystem, right? That is, And do you guys have a subgroup under Corey for the vExpert program where we're just focusing on vRealize? I suppose you have management, but it's just like just seems like there's momentum here.
Yeah, there certainly is, and we do. The vExpert program for vRealize, I believe, is CMA, so Cloud Management, vExpert Cloud Management, which is a sub-program. And I've been a member of that group for a couple years, the vExpert group for 3 years, and that community, be it on Twitter or the blogosphere or wherever, is we share a lot, right? So we share content, we share blogs, we share insight, feature requests, bugs, what have you. But a lot of us at VMware, be CMBUSEs or MCMSAs, we will generate content on the broader suite of vRealize. So on my blog, you'll see a lot on VRops, vRealize, Cloud Health, SaltStack, Verdi. Those are all products that kind of fit within the cloud management or multi-cloud management ecosystem at VMware. So thanks for the shout out. I appreciate it. I write those mostly for my customers, right? So customers that have questions or, a how-to or, how do I use VRLCM to upgrade all of my binaries? These are just things that I'm able to share with customers, several times over, right? So thanks for the shout out. Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, I got another topic here, which this is always one that we can spend 15 minutes on, which is cloud versus on-prem, right? And VMware's trying to move to the SaaS model, SaaS services, but yet, from my perspective, we just have a ton of customers that still run data centers, right? And so, how do you see that playing out? I know that we offer some of the vRealize suite as a cloud solution that you can connect back to on-prem. Why don't we talk a little bit about where we're going with that?
Yep, sure. So we offer all of it as cloud solutions, right? So the suite, Ops, LI, and VRA are all SaaS offerings at this point. So we have a cloud subscription model where folks, if they want us to host it, us to maintain it, us to upgrade everything, they run it in the cloud. You have an on-prem cloud proxy is what we call it, which is basically our tunnel into the environment. We capture all their data via vCenters, ESXi hosts, et cetera, and then pipe it back into the cloud. So we have a few different products that allow customers to deploy in either location, right? So vRealize Cloud Universal allows customers to either run things on-prem or run them in the cloud, whatever they want. So, I have customers that are kind of in process of going cloud, right? And it may not be just, hyperscaler cloud, like, hey, we're moving everything to GCP or AWS. We're just trying to move out bits and pieces as we can to get out of the management upgrade business, right? So let's start with vRealize Operations and vRealize Log Insight. Fine. We deploy our cluster. We deploy a cloud proxy. We connect them. They're immediately seeing data. Right. So now they're out of the upgrade game. 8.6 just dropped a few weeks ago, for example, right? So it takes a few hours to upgrade all your appliances, get everything up and running, make sure everything is good. So they are out of that business at this point, doing whatever they need for their business, allowing us to do the upgrade. So we have a lot of customers going there, a lot of them interested, which is really, a little bit different than kind of the hyperscaler play, right, for their infrastructure.
Yeah, so it's a pick and choose which SaaS service you want to use for your enterprise, where you can eliminate some, overhead in order to focus on other things. And it's kind of like this: you don't have to do it all at once. You can pick components, and this SaaS, vRealize SaaS, is that thing. I feel like I want to be a little bit like Joe Rogan here, where he pauses and he goes like, so I'm not sure I like this, right? Like, I'm not sure I want this to go this way, right? Like,
yeah, and that's okay, right? And the beauty is you don't have to, right? So, the vRealize Cloud Universal offering is one that allows the customer to choose where they want their products to sit, right? So if you don't want to scale, if you're a large enterprise and you don't want to scale up a team, build a team to learn, Ops, LI, YAML, and VRA, you don't have to, right? We can run all of it for you, and you just consume.
Yeah. And then, what do you think on scalability, right? Like on-prem versus cloud? Is there an impact between, scaling?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen any impacts yet. We'll run a cluster, say a VRops cluster, for example, a primary node, data nodes, remote collectors in the cloud, much like you would on-prem. We simply have those cloud proxies running on-prem, and we scale them out as needed, right? I think we run cloud proxies, I want to say either regular or large sized based on the number of objects and metrics we're capturing, and we'll just scale them out.
Right.
You're smiling.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I'm like, well, how about fault tolerance? Something's not going to work here. You're like, I'm going to find it.
Yeah, no, you're right. And those are fair points, right? which is generally why we'll run more than one cloud proxy, right? And also have caching. So, if your cloud proxy is down or your connection to the internet is down, something is down, right? The pipe is broken. We cache data. And then when the pipe is reestablished, we send that data. So, much like any other solution.
There has to be resiliency built into it, but it's sad to say that the cloud model does work. I go back to my Helium coin miner, right? Like they had an outage. It was out for like a day, and it hasn't been out since I've gotten this little thing. And all of a sudden, all the numbers are flatline, right? And you're like, oh, I wonder if I should do I get a refund? Like if I'm running the cloud network and I'm not getting the Helium network and I'm not getting my cloud coin for it, maybe I just turn it off until they get their system back up. But then they brought it back up like 26 hours later. They were giving me updates the whole time in their little app. And then when they brought it up, they processed all the transactions that had happened and, caught themselves back up. And so even the fault that did happen, they still processed the data, delivered the service, and moved on. Right. So it is.
Yep. So very similar here, Eric. I mean, we'll process the data, we'll hold it. The pipe opens, we'll process it, and we'll publish it back to you via the UI once it's available. I have had no reliability issues. I've been using some of our vRops cloud services since their inception. I have had no issues whatsoever. No issues from customers, even on GA or upgrade days, right? So with GA days on a Thursday and the cloud customers get the new updates immediately, I've had no issues there. It's a nice process around that, where they're told their upgrade's going to happen. It happens within the next 24 hours, and they're kind of off and running. I think there's lots of advantages, and if you don't want to be in the cloud, you don't have to be. And there are customers that have use cases where they can't be, right? Maybe they're for compliance reasons, or government related entities where you can't have information in the cloud. I think there will always be some sort of on-prem. And I saw this on Twitter the other day, and I sort of chuckled, right? The cloud is somebody else's on-prem.
Yeah, I always tell people that. I'm like, there is a computer somewhere, right? There is CPUs. It's not like we don't need CPUs. It's just where we're hosting them and putting them and managing them and, ACing them, keeping them cool. I definitely do that. So talk cloud providers for a second, right? Because, Azure, everybody talks AWS, right? And we tend to say VMC and AWS all the time because it's like the bread and butter thing that we talk about. But I think we do all the clouds now, right? How are you guys in moving vRealize suites into these different clouds?
Yeah, so you're right. We do all the clouds at this point. VMC and AWS gets most of the attention, I think, because they were the first. We do have a partnership with Azure or Microsoft at this point. It is called AVS, Azure VMware Solution, and another one with Google that is called GCVE, Google Cloud VMware Engine.
I did not know this. They actually have acronyms for the Azure one. What's it? AVS,
Apple Victor Sam.
Yes.
Azure VMware Solution. Yeah. And, they couldn't all be the same. So Google's is GCVE.
I'm going to have to get the AVS one down. As much as I used to pan Microsoft for being the big giant monopoly, now I look at Amazon and I go, okay, like, is there anywhere else I can buy stuff besides Amazon Prime? No, not really. But I'm desperately clawing for things to promote that aren't just Amazon, right? So AVS, Amazon VMware Solutions.
Yep, and nice. GCVE is Google's. We also have partnerships with Oracle Cloud. I think that's OCVE. A lot of acronyms here.
I'm going to have
much
to
like everybody else.
These and then just promoting them, right? Because it is definitely one of these things we talk about it, but until you actually have a good acronym that you can just rattle off, it doesn't become canon. Right. So and customers are going there as well, right? So some customers very quickly with whatever hyperscaler they choose, and we're kind of coming along with them in terms of the vRealize suite, right? There will always, I think, be use cases for both solutions, be it on-prem or in the cloud, and we have offerings for both. So we have strong partnerships with all the hyperscalers, and probably some that maybe aren't even in the top 4 or 5. So I think out of the box, vRops has management packs for all 3 that I just mentioned. Maybe that was
even
going to be my follow-up question. Like, do we have management packs that allow you to then get more data from the cloud provider? So
Yep, exactly. So we have out of the box management pack for the big three that I already mentioned. And then I think we have another one for Oracle Cloud. They basically just connect up to whatever their, I think Azure's is called CloudWatch. I can't remember all of the solutions, but connect up to those solution APIs, pull all of that data back. So now you have visibility into your EC2 instances. You have visibility into your cloud VMs as well as on-prem VMs, right? Because most every shop that I work with has a little bit of both.
Right.
They have on-prem vSphere VMs. They have some cloud VMs for various use cases, DR, different things. So vRealize Operations can get us all of that. And then we have a solution that does costing around all of the public cloud. So what you're paying for EC2 instances and various cloud VMs called Cloud Health. So Cloud Health is kind of another solution that fits into the broader ecosystem of multi-cloud management at VMware.
Yeah, I think that everybody has to look at it and determine what their budget is and where they have their hot spots and their cold spots. I have stuff. Me and Corey run stuff on the vExpert app is run on AWS, right? So we run that, and the vExperts do dev on it. We talked about at the beginning. They're adding new features, and it's on AWS, and we don't even pay attention to that anymore. Every once in a while, we look at the bill and we go, okay, I guess the bill is all right. It's still a manageable bill, right? And that's it. And once in a while, we have to go in and actually update the SSL certificate or other things that are just yearly. But then we have other services and blogs where we're on-premming that, right? And the amount of time we spend on the on-prem is much tighter because blogs is a big giant platform. WordPress has always got plugins coming in and out, and so we've selectively decided where to put our time, right? And then we have both, and then we have to manage to both of those, right? But the cloud one, way less. Like I put the things that I can put there and forget about them and set some alerts and go away. Right now, that's not everybody's use case, but certainly it's
and I think having visibility into all of it is what's important, right? Be it on-prem or in the cloud. And Cloud Health, when you end up spending 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures monthly, which some of these enterprises do, then you become very interested in what you're paying for your cloud infrastructure. So we can present all that via vRops. You can present it via Cloud Health, all sorts of different ways that we can get the data and kind of massage it and send it back to the user.
Yeah, I gotta say, I come back to the original Dark Ops comment I had, which is VMware. It also starts to become. All right, I'll use an analogy. Google's TV streamer versus Fire Stick from Amazon versus Roku. They're all streaming. They all got a little SoC processor. You buy the chips from China. They build these things. What the difference was the user interface for each of those. And if you look at Roku, which all fairness, my son works a Roku. Go buy a Roku. I own Roku stock, so yes, but Roku's GUI is so much better that customers self-selected, and the GUI becomes the way you operate with these things will become the deciding factor of what you actually purchase, how you run it. And if you look at VMware's GUIs is light years now with HTML5, with dark mode, with all the things they're coming out. It's becoming, and I use both. I use Amazon, and I also have on-prem, and I use vSphere, and I'm like, oh, I like being in it's like so nice just to. VMware's GUIs are like so good now that it becomes a selecting factor for me on where I want to actually manage workloads.
Yeah, for sure it does. I mean, we're all hitting the same APIs, right? And getting the same data and bringing it back. It's how we present it. Do we make it usable? Is it consumable? Is it friendly? Is it efficient? And, when I started using vRops, well, it was vCops at the time, right? The UI was very expert friendly. And now the UI has come so far, and there was a big UI drop in the last 8.6 release. The UI was redesigned a little bit. I think this is one of the really important things about VMware is that the project managers and the developers of our products are very receptive to our feedback, not only from customers, but from SEs like me and others who work with customers, and take it constructively, saying, hey, we don't love how this is laid out. We want the dark theme back. For example, in Ops, I can't remember, I think it was vRops 6.7, the dark theme went away. And there was like a mutiny. People were just up in arms. What just happened? And it came back the very next release, of course. But they're very receptive to UI changes, UI suggestions, because The data is kind of ubiquitous, and making it presentable in a really clean, efficient, kind of modern way. The vRealize platforms have come a long way there, and the cloud UIs are super, super clean. The cloud UIs are wonderful, and all very similar, right? So
I almost think there needs to be a podcast that's just like the VMware UI podcast, or VMware live stream, where you go into different UIs and just showcase driving into different functions.
Yeah, totally. We should do it, and I bet we could get a PM on here to do it with us that does some of the development work.
Yeah. Because I feel like now, in the old days, it was all about the creative design of VMs and network fabrics and storage fabrics and speeds and feeds. And if I really look at it today, it's how well does the GUI perform? How does it let me do cross cloud management? How do I control things from this GUI panel? Because very few of us are actually going into the data center and doing anything with physical gear anymore. It all now becomes, what have I got in front of me that I can use to manage this workload?
Yeah, especially in this brave new world, right? I mean, it's post-COVID. I think we're all kind of remote, maybe at home. You're not necessarily in the raised floor. So I want to see what's going on in AVS, GCVE, my on-prem vSphere environment. I want to see it all on a single pane. I want to see everything on one UI, and VROPS can give them that.
Yeah. I gotta say I tell my wife this. It's like, things are not going to go back to the way they were, right? I don't know where they're going. I can't predict where they're going. All I know is we're just not going backwards. I don't think I'll probably ever drive up to Palo Alto. I live in Palo Alto. The campus is literally 12 minutes scooter ride away, my metropolitan little scooter. And it's like, it doesn't matter, because I don't think I'm going back up to that campus, because when I go up there, there's nobody there anyway, right? And even people that say, well, we'll go back. And when you go back, there's like 7 people in the entire campus. So it's not going to go back. And the pane of glasses that we do have in front, and the super wide monitors, the 8K monitor is going to show up one of these days. That's the new it, right?
For sure it is. I mean, my office looks like kind of a knock, right? 34-inch curved MacBook Pro, right? So I can see everything at a glance, and I'm with you. I think we probably don't go back to normal, and this is a new normal, right? Maybe you're not on campus, maybe I'm not traveling, but there's some benefits that we can take from that as well, right? There's a little bit more efficiencies that we can find. And it's not all bad, but I'm excited for things to come.
Yeah, that's good. Well, as we come up to the last 7 or 8 minutes of the podcast, I always like to ask, so what's I think you were here in the summer. I asked you this before. We got COVID. You wanted to get out to see some customers. We don't know where that's going. Any dreams and aspirations for next year? I know we're going to have VMworld real. What do you want to tell us about where the future is going? What excites you?
Yeah, so when we spoke in June, I think I mentioned I was excited to get back out and see some folks. That hasn't happened, right? So I feel like we're still kind of in COVID a little bit here. But I am excited to get back to an on-site VMworld, right? So I think that's the next big event that folks are pushing for. I know we just finished ours. I think it was successful. I'm not sure that huge conferences like that are ever as successful remotely as they are on site. There's excitement. You're able to hang out, do various things. Yeah. So I'm excited about an on-site VMworld. I'm also excited to see kind of where we go in terms of multi-cloud, meaning I see more customers going there, right? It's not just vendors talking about multi-cloud. Right. It's actual customers, moving to the cloud, and to see where we go with our SaaS solutions, our cloud-based solutions, I think is pretty exciting for VMware as a company, and then of course for the multi-cloud management business group within VMware. So I think there's lots of goodness to come, Eric. 2022 will be exciting.
It is interesting, the multi-cloud. If you listen to Raghu, you listen to the management, they'll talk. There's 3 main things that we're trying to make happen over the next several years. One is multi-cloud, right? Because we believe customers need it. The second is Tanzu and modern applications, and allowing you to manage up the stack. It's about the applications, stupid, like the old Chip. I think it was Bush said it's taxes, stupid, or something like that.
It was Carville, James Carville, the DFL strategist. He's like, it's the economy, stupid.
That's it. It was the economy, stupid, right? Like it's multi-cloud, it's coming. Then there's SaaS, right? Oh, it's the application. Sorry, it's Tanzu. It's the application, stupid. We have to manage up into the apps because the apps, it's all just coming together. And then the third thing is software as a service, right? And how VMware delivers software as a service. And it's like, I kind of want to get everybody together and go, like, how many products do we have that are actually in the cloud as a service? It's hard to get that list. vRealize suites are all there. That's great. We've got other things that are out there that we've picked up that are there. We have VMC, and now with the acronyms, I just feel like I need a poster that has all the SaaS services that are available that we can be consuming as IT practitioners. And then how do I get vExperts entry into those SaaS services? Because, you used to be able to give free licenses. Corey gives out free licenses to everything in your home lab. But if it's a SaaS service, how do I get that enabled for practitioners who want to talk about it and learn stuff? But I'm excited about that transition that we're and I think listening to you, I think they were making progress, right? Like it's
we for sure are. I think there's some logistics around vExperts and getting trial licenses that you're running in the cloud, because there's storage and compute and stuff that's consumed there. But we are definitely making progress, and most importantly, we're seeing customers make progress. Right? Customers are in fact going to hyperscalers, and we're going along with them. So there's a lot to be excited about in 2022. 2 months left in this year, 3 months in the fiscal year. So a lot to be done yet this fourth quarter, but 2022 is going to be a good year.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, again, we're coming up to the end of the hour. So thanks a lot. How do people follow you on Twitter, and where do they go for vRealize information?
Yeah, so I am BP at VMware on Twitter. And for anything vRealize, you can go to my blog, brockpeterson.com, or just vmware.vrealize.com. The VMware site has actually gotten quite clean as of late. We have all the products kind of listed within a pane, a matrix. So you just go to the vmware.com site and you can find VROPS, VRLI, vRealize in general. Click on it, it'll take you right in. So
and
that's become quite easy.
They have the resource page. I would say that the .com has gotten good now, because you can go select a product, and then they have a resources tab that gives you links to blogs, gives you links to communities. We're going to put links to the podcasts there for every product, so that you can actually see a list of all the podcasts for the relevant products that are out there. So I got to say that they've made progress just going to vmware.com and choosing your product. You can in the resources area, they have quite a few links there that are really good.
Yeah, that wasn't always the case. A year ago, it probably wasn't quite this clean. It's really clean right now. In fact, I was just looking for some resources the other day, and I was like, ooh, this is nice.
Yeah, exactly. I should need to go look at VMware.com every once in a while. It's moving forward, and we run the communities.vmware.com. We're kind of a web team. I work in a web team. We do all of this out of the web team, because all of these are web properties, right? Blogs are web property, communities are web property, and we're at like 35% of all the traffic that comes into .com is through the community's destinations. A lot of them through Google or whatever. And so I always make fun of that other side. The other side of the house is the VMware, non-community web pages. And I just roll my eyes and go, those guys. I'm a bad person when it comes to that kind of stuff. But I got to say that it has gotten good now to where we do community integration with them, because it's pretty good, right? So yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, good. Got your Twitter ID. What was your Twitter again? BP at
VMware.
At VMware. Well, what a good one to have. That's until you leave VMware and you go somewhere else, then you're going to have an issue. But that's never going to happen. All right. Well, I got to say, Brock Peterson, thanks for coming on the show. The last 4 minutes is barbecue. We were talking a little bit with Tony Foster, who has been hanging out. And we also talked to you, Brock, about barbecue. Thanksgiving is next week. We'll probably do a podcast next week on Wednesday just for fun. But we're talking about, and I said that I heard this idea of a turkey with a chicken with something inside. What What is that?
So I think, and this is what John Madden tells me, is that it's called a turducken.
Turducken. And what? How do you make a turducken?
So that's a duck inside a chicken inside a turkey, and then you smoke it.
And then you smoke it. Or I heard that you can actually go outside and get a big boiling pot of peanut oil and then dunk the whole thing and fry it as well. Do not do that inside your garage, inside your house, because it lights on fire if you have any water in any of those three birds, right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. My brother-in-law, who is formerly an insurance adjuster, says go out to the street and do that.
yeah, exactly. Like far enough away. And then wear a hazmat suit or something, because when that thing boils up and sprays hot oil all over you, you're going to have little dots of third degree and second degree blisters all over your body. So that's another one to do. But that sounds good. Meat is good. And we go from there. Tony Foster, just a shout out to say hi. I know that you didn't do any barbecue. Are you going to do any barbecue for Thanksgiving?
So I probably will not get to do any barbecue for Thanksgiving since I'm going down to my in-laws for Thanksgiving. So yeah.
When you say going down, are you going down to Texas? Because I heard in Texas nobody does any barbecue down there, and what they do is kind of on propane grills. So yeah, that's probably what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Just traveling about 50 miles down to my in-laws. They're still in Kansas.
All right,
So,
there you go.
Yes, when I come back though, I may get to do some barbecue.
We're gonna have to.
Not too full.
We're gonna have to invite Tim Davis on the show just to get the Texas perspective of barbecued turkey. Maybe I'll send him an invite for next Wednesday. Brock, thanks a lot for coming back on again. Thanks for doing the great work at the blog. Go check out his blog, brockpeterson.com. And hey, guys, everyone listen to the very end. Thanks for doing that. We'll be back again next week. Until then, go get some barbecue.